So if you remember in my previous segments, I showed you how to pop the seed, germinate it with the little taproot. Once you got the taproot, you put it in the soil. Once it broke soil and roots were coming out, that's when I put it in the cloth pot. Once it gets to the cloth pot, then it gets to this size, and that's where we're at right now. So I want to go from the 1 gallon cloth pot to a 5 gallon cloth pot. And I have a home grow, so I usually stop at 5 gallons, but certainly if you have larger accommodations, if you're growing outside, you can certainly get larger pots. But I only go as large as 5. So we put perlite in the bottom. As you remember, perlite is for aeration and drainage. We want to make sure that these plants are the roots are well drained. Any buildup of moisture can cause mold, and we don't want mold to grow. So we put about 1/2 inch to 1 inch along the bottom of the cloth pot. And so the medium that I'm putting in right now, I use a medium that is soilless, and it is made up of peat, perlite, and some fungi to help with the rooting system, which is mycorrhizae, I think it's called. But then when I transfer these into the 5 gallon pot, I also amend the soil. And what it means to amend the soil, excuse me, is basically introducing nutrients into the soil or medium. As I said, it's a soilless medium, but I tend to have a habit of calling it soil. And when you're working with this, you want to make sure you want to make sure that you're working under clean conditions. I didn't show me cleaning off the tabletop. I didn't show me washing my hands ahead of time. And sometimes I wear gloves, sometimes I don't wear gloves. Generally speaking, if I'm working with the nutrients, I do wear gloves because sometimes it irritates. If I have just dry skin or my psoriasis is kind of acting up on me, it can get aggravated a little bit. But for this segment, I did not end up putting gloves on. So right now, I only have it about halfway filled because what I want to do is leave enough room to put the plant in. So with this plant, it has a little story behind it. You'll see that it has a little support stick here, and also inside here you'll see that I have some black electrical tape. I tend to be a bit aggressive with my plants, whether I'm moving them or trying to do some low stress training. You'll probably see that along the way in the segments, I'm sure. Those won't end up on the cutting room floor because sometimes it's kind of funny. But you'll notice that this plant recovered nicely. I did lose a whole stem from it, but where the hormones kind of came to rebuild and really make that stem stronger, it almost formed like a little knuckle. And when the injury had first happened, I used some cloning gel, which is a rooting hormone, to help it heal. It's like putting bacitracin or neosporin on a cut when it happens. That's what I did. I splinted it up a little bit with the electrical tape and support with the stick. Now I'm going to transplant it. The soil I did wet a little bit just so it's not crumbling when I remove it. But it does get a little messy because, as you remember, in the bottom there is the perlite, so I can feel that that's loose and that it will crumble a little bit. A lot like when I'm transferring from the solo cup into the 1 gallon, you still want to support it, although this is a pretty strong stem, but you want to still flip it very gently to remove this 1 gallon. And I do hold on to that stem a little bit, remove it, and put that aside. So it's the solid root ball, and I'm going to put it right down. So I place it down, and then I fill in the rest with the amended soil all around. Now this plant has already been labeled. I usually put the label on when I first transplant from the solo cup to the 1 gallon cloth pot. But so what I did is I removed the label because I want to indicate when the date that I transferred it from the 1 gallon to the 5 gallon. So I take my label off, and if I knew where my pen was, but what I would do is I would put the date on when it was transplanted. As well as I also put the date if I've topped it at all, or if I did any type of low stress training. Low stress training is just when you're gently bending the arms down and tagging them down. But that's what I would do. I would write that I had transferred it, and this will be its final pot, and its final resting spot will be in my vegetation room for a couple of weeks, because once you do any type of transplanting, it is a stress on the plant, so you do need to allow it some time to heal. So a good 2 weeks is a good general guideline to allow a plant to heal, whether you've topped it, FIMmed it, transplanted it, what have you. Anytime you do it, even if you've defoliated, you need to give that plant some time to recoup from that stress. Good stress is stress, but stress nonetheless. So there we have it, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on another segment of Nurses Who Grow. Please, please, please like, follow, and share this page, as well as if you are interested in following me, you can find me on Instagram at Jodi420RN, on Facebook 420RN, as well as greennetworkproviders.com, 420rn.com, and nurseswhogrow.com. Thanks again, everybody, for helping me decrease the stigma of this plant 1 leaf at a time.